The galaxy had watched humanity for 300 years. They had studied them from the shadows of distant nebulas and the cold silence of observation posts hidden among asteroid fields. The collective council of 12 species had gathered data on every human colony, every trade route, every diplomatic gesture. And in all that time, they had reached one unanimous conclusion. Humans were weak. Ambassador Terra'sWrath of the Zervani Empire stood before the great viewing screen aboard the command vessel Eternal Dominion. His 4 eyes narrowed as he watched the blue and green planet rotating slowly in the darkness of space. Earth, the homeworld of the most confusing species the galaxy had ever encountered. "They send poets to negotiate treaties," Terra'sWrath said, his voice dripping with contempt. "They build hospitals on conquered worlds instead of prisons. They feed their enemies and call it victory." Behind him, the War Council of the Zervani Empire nodded in agreement. They were a species built for conquest. Their bodies stood 8 feet tall, covered in thick armor-like skin that could withstand plasma burns. Their civilization had consumed 47 worlds in the last millennium. They understood power. They understood strength. And they understood that peace was nothing more than weakness dressed in pretty words. "The humans have refused our demands," reported Commander Threx, his clawed hand swiping through holographic data. "They will not surrender the Kepler corridor. They say it belongs to no empire." Terra'sWrath laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. "Then we will teach them what happens to those who refuse the Zervani. Assemble the full armada. Every ship, every soldier. We will crush Earth in a single day and scatter their colonies like dust." The Zervani had never lost a war. Their armada numbered 10,000 vessels, each one bristling with weapons capable of turning mountains into ash. Their soldiers numbered in the billions, bred from birth for nothing but combat. They had broken empires that had lasted for 10,000 years. What chance did humanity have? A species that still celebrated something called festivals of peace. A species that taught their children to resolve conflicts with words. The armada gathered in the darkness between stars. 10,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, their engines humming with barely contained violence. Terra'sWrath stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and felt pride swelling in his chest. This would be his greatest victory. The conquest of Earth would echo through history forever. "Begin the jump," he commanded. Space itself seemed to tear open as the armada entered hyperspace. They would arrive at Earth in 6 hours. 6 hours until the weak species learned the true cost of peace. On Earth, the warnings came through military channels first. The deep space sensors had detected the energy signature of the jump. Admiral Sarah Chun sat in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains and watched the tactical display with calm eyes. 10,000 ships. The largest invasion force the galaxy had ever assembled. "Contact the civilian leadership," she said quietly. "Begin evacuation protocols for coastal cities. Move our people underground." Her aide, a young officer named Marcus Webb, looked at her with fear barely hidden behind his professional mask. "Admiral, we only have 300 ships in the home fleet. The colonial fleets are weeks away. How can we possibly?" Admiral Chun held up her hand. "The Zervani have made a mistake, Lieutenant. The same mistake every empire makes when they look at us. They see our kindness and think it is all we are. They see our mercy and assume we have forgotten how to fight." She pressed a button on her console. Across the planet, across every colony and outpost in human space, a signal was transmitted. A signal that had not been sent in over 200 years. The signal that activated Protocol Omega, deep beneath the surface of Mars. Doors that had been sealed for centuries began to open. Inside the hollowed-out core of Luna, machines that had slept since the last Great War hummed to life. In the asteroid belt, what appeared to be ordinary mining stations began to unfold into something far more dangerous. Humanity had learned many lessons in its long journey to the stars. One of the most important was this: Those who seek peace must be prepared for war. Every hospital they built had a bunker beneath it. Every school was constructed to withstand orbital bombardment. Every poet they sent to negotiate was also trained in 17 forms of combat. The Zorvani had watched humanity for 300 years, but they had only seen what humanity wanted them to see. The Armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Terra'sWrath leaned forward in his command chair, eager for his first glimpse of the human homeworld. Instead, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships. Not the 300 vessels their intelligence had reported. Not the scattered defense forces of a peaceful species. This was an armada that matched their own in size and exceeded it in something far more dangerous. Purpose. Impossible, Threx whispered beside him. Where did they come from? The human ships were different from anything the Zorvani had encountered. They were sleek and dark, built for a single purpose. They carried no cargo holds, no diplomatic chambers, no passenger quarters. These ships had been built for one thing only: war. Admiral Chun's voice crackled through the communication channels. Zorvani Armada, this is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Imperial Fleet. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have one opportunity to withdraw. This is your only warning. Terra'sWrath recovered from his shock quickly. He was a warrior, born and bred. He would not be intimidated by tricks and illusions. Attack pattern Delta, he commanded. Show these humans what real strength looks like. The Zorvani Armada surged forward, weapons charging. They had won every battle they had ever fought. Their tactics were perfect. Their soldiers were fearless. They would not lose to a species of poets and peacemakers. The first wave of Zorvani ships reached weapons range and opened fire. Plasma bolts and particle beams lit up the darkness of space. They expected the human ships to scatter, to flee, to behave like prey. Instead, the human ships did something unexpected. They advanced. The Terran Imperial fleet moved with a coordination that seemed almost supernatural. Each ship knew exactly where to be and when. They flowed around the Zorvani attacks like water around stones, and then they struck back. Human weapons technology had advanced in secret for 300 years. While they publicly displayed defensive systems and peaceful exploration vessels, their military scientists had been working in hidden laboratories across 100 worlds. The weapons they had developed were not designed to wound or capture. They were designed to end threats permanently. The first Zorvani battleship exploded without warning. One moment it was there. The next, it was simply gone. A wave of energy had passed through its shields as if they did not exist and ignited its reactor core from within. Terra'sWrath stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Another ship vanished. Then another. Then 10 more. The human fleet was cutting through his armada like a blade through flesh. How? He demanded. How is this possible? They are peaceful. They are weak. They build hospitals. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Chun watched the battle unfold with no pleasure in her eyes. They always think the same thing, she said softly to Lieutenant Webb. They see us help our enemies recover after wars. They see us send food to starving worlds. They think it means we cannot fight. They never understand. Understand what, Admiral? We help our enemies recover because we know exactly how much damage we can do. We send food to starving worlds because we remember what it means to be hungry. We build hospitals because we know too well how to destroy. Peace is not weakness, Lieutenant. Peace is strength that has chosen not to hurt. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Zorvani Armada had been reduced to scattered debris drifting in the void. Of their 10,000 ships, fewer than 300 survived. Terra'sWrath's flagship was one of them, but only because Admiral Chun had ordered her forces to disable it rather than destroy it. Marines boarded the Eternal Dominion and took Terra'sWrath into custody. He was brought before Admiral Chun with plasma burns on his armor and defeat in his 4 eyes. He expected torture. He expected humiliation. He expected everything his own species would have done to a captured enemy commander. Instead, a human medic treated his wounds. A human soldier offered him water. And Admiral Chun spoke to him with no hatred in her voice. "Your invasion is over," she said. "Your remaining ships will be escorted out of human space. You will return to your empire and deliver a message." Terra'sWrath looked at her with confusion that bordered on madness. "You should kill me. You should destroy my people." "That is what strength demands." Admiral Chun shook her head slowly. "No, that is what weakness demands. True strength is having the power to destroy and choosing not to. True strength is building instead of breaking. True strength is offering mercy to those who showed none." She stepped closer to him, and for the first time, Terra'sWrath saw something in her eyes that made him understand. Behind the kindness, behind the mercy, behind the peaceful exterior, there was steel. There was fire. There was a species that had fought its way up from the mud of a single planet and learned every lesson the universe could teach about violence and survival. "We choose peace," Admiral Chun continued. "Not because we are weak. We choose peace because we know what war truly costs. We have seen our cities burn. We have buried our children. We have looked into the darkness and become something that could survive it. And then we chose to build hospitals instead of prisons. We chose to feed our enemies instead of executing them. That is not weakness. That is the hardest kind of strength there is." Terra'sWrath was released. He returned to the Zervani Empire and told them what had happened. He told them about the hidden fleet. He told them about the weapons that passed through shields like they were not there. But most importantly, he told them about the look in Admiral Chun's eyes. The look of a predator that had chosen to be kind. The Zervani never attacked human space again. Neither did any other empire that heard the story, because the galaxy finally understood what humanity really was. They were not weak. They were dangerous. The most dangerous species anyone had ever encountered. Because the ones who choose peace when they could choose war are always the most frightening. You can predict what a violent enemy will do. They will fight. But a peaceful enemy who has unlimited capacity for violence, you never know when their patience will end. Earth continued to build hospitals on distant worlds. Human poets continued to negotiate treaties. Human ships continued to carry food to starving colonies. And deep beneath the surface of 100 worlds, the weapons of the Terran Imperial fleet waited in silence, ready, patient, hoping they would never be needed again, but prepared for the day when they would be. Peace was not weakness. Peace was the greatest strength of all. And humanity had proven it in the only way the galaxy could understand. With fire and steel and mercy that cut deeper than any weapon ever could.